Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at @itchjessino. So, you guys, I've been chilling all day, just kind of like chilling and relaxing. So, I'm sorry, I kind of like look a little bit frazzled or whatever. But I did want to make sure that I came on today at least once to give you guys a little bit of content. So, don't hate me because of my big weird sweatshirt. Just let me live. Allow it. But, anyways, so on today's show, we're going to be talking about mostly Italy. It's the start of the Euro, so we want to do a little bit of a wrap up on the first game, and talk about the goals and what we thought about the teams and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to talk about like just a summary of the game, how I kind of thought it went. You guys can let me know how you thought it went, and then we can kind of talk about the style of play from Italy. I think it's really interesting. I was actually really impressed by the way that they held possession, and then there were some conversations around whether that's the way that Arsenal want to play or the way that Arteta wants to play and things like that. And we'll also talk about Locatelli because I was watching him in this game. I'd watched quite a few compilations of him before the game started to kind of see the profile of player that we were being linked with. And then I wanted to watch the game to see how he is in action. I think it's a little bit weird watching a player internationally because I think they perform differently internationally than they do with their clubs. Nevertheless, I wanted to see what kind of player he was. So we'll talk about him and all that kind of good stuff and do some Q&A. So let me know in the chat box what you thought about the game. Obviously, Italy 3, Turkey 0. Wow. I really thought it would be a lot tighter, just the way that Turkey was hyped. But then at the same time, I was thinking like, okay, just because, you took points off of France during the Nations League or whatever, just the lead up games doesn't necessarily mean anything. And I think there was a lot of stock put into that. And then coming into the tournament and being suffocated by the possession from Italy really took them aback. And they are one of the youngest teams in the tournament. And I think their naivety or maybe their inexperience is kind of shown. But just the way the game went, it was very like, wow, they are not really in this game. You could just kind of tell that it was just a little bit too much for them. And I'm not sure whether I feel like Italy was super good or Turkey was super bad. Like, maybe it's like a combination of the two. But let me see what you guys are saying in the chat box before we continue on a little bit. Van says the Italian midfielders. Rai Sanko says, hey, Jess, hey, how are you? Italy bossed it. Yeah, they did. Dublin Gunner said, Italy never lose the ball ever. Mike says, after the own goal, Turkey kind of slumped. Olivier said, boring first half, good second half, but where were the Turks? Too many mistakes. G says, hello, Jess. Hey, G, how are you? Lamar says, Jorginho dominated the whole game. Yes Man says, check Ornstein's latest tweet. You guys just tell me what it says. I hate doing that thing where people are like, look, take a look, and then I'm all excited. It's nothing. Tell me what it says. Van says, like I was saying, Barella is a gem. If Arsenal got him, we are set. G. Cassie says, I think Italy do have a chance. Midfield and strike force looks good. Yeah, so I think kind of like you guys said, it was a slow start, in terms of actual like clear-cut chances on goal. Italy dominated the game from minute 1. They were very dominant in possession, and their passing patterns and their movement off the ball, the way that they were switching positions, the way that Jorginho was dominating and orchestrating the entire game, the trickiness of like Insigne and Berardi and Barella was really impressive. And I just was thinking to myself in the first half, I was like, if they get a goal, that's going to be it, because when you're kind of holding down the fort and defending in your own half for a long period of time, it's like if you get one goal scored on you and you're kind of just banking on keeping things tight and going on the counter, one goal can really just like disrupt everything. So I was thinking, if Turkey could just kind of hold on and maybe get to halftime and get maybe some reinforcements or some coaching, maybe they could hold on, because ultimately for me, Italy wasn't necessarily super potent in the first half. It wasn't like they were bombarding Turkey with shots. It was just more the possession was really strangling, and it was keeping Turkey from being able to create any sort of attack or even get into the Italian half. I mean, Donnarumma really could have sat there and maybe played solitaire and just chilled because he really had nothing to do. So Italy was doing a really good job of keeping Calhanoglu off of the ball. Every single time he touched the ball, they just smothered him and hit him and kept him from getting good possession, which really just kind of it killed anything that Turkey wanted to do. Yazici was, I'm probably not saying these names correctly, so don't kill me, but you guys know Yazici from Lille was very quiet and didn't really do anything to help. So I wasn't actually surprised that Under came in the second half. But by just keeping Calhanoglu off the ball, they pretty much made sure that Turkey couldn't do anything. And Turkey's actually really good defensively. So I was a little bit taken aback by the shakiness. It seemed like they were very fragile and a lot less comfortable in defense than I'm used to them being. But I think it was just the nature in which Italy was kind of going after them. And let's not take, you have to take into account also that they were playing, in Italy. And so maybe the fans and the atmosphere and the environment with such a young team kind of took them out of their concentration. But ultimately it was just like I was like, as soon as Italy maybe scores a goal, that's going to be it. So yeah, I mean, the possession aspect of it was very smooth. Like, I haven't seen passing like that very often. Well, obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan, so the passing is never this smooth, and the patterns don't look rigid. It looked like natural movement. You know how, like, before we knew that everything was rehearsed and there was passing patterns, it looked natural, like these players are just doing this off the cuff. That's what it looked like to me, like old school, like pattern play that wasn't overly rigid, because the players looked really, really comfortable, like they've been playing with each other forever. And so it was very enjoyable to watch. And the game ultimately just needed goals, which we got, in that second half. I didn't think that the first goal would be an own goal, but ultimately that gave the game a little bit of a stretch and made Turkey have to make decisions. And the decisions that they made ultimately ended up with more and more and more goals, so it's really interesting. It was really interesting to see how the game unfolded. I don't actually think, like, although I was disappointed by the way that Turkey kind of, the build up to the game was very much two dark horses going up against each other and it should be a better game. I was a little bit disappointed by Turkey, but Italy is not actually a dark horse, in my opinion. Like, with the amount of players, the types of players that they have, you're talking about Immobile, Insigne, Barella, these are not slouchy players. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like this, they have 6 good pieces and a couple of others, and they're just going to kind of like try to get it over the line. It really wasn't that. Like, Jorginho, the players that they were even bringing in, Bernardeschi, Chiesa, like, this is not an underdog team in any way, shape, or form. Like, you know what I mean? So I think Turkey can take that into the next couple of games, playing against, who is it, Switzerland? Who else is in their group? Let's see, Switzerland and Wales, and get something out of those games. I don't think it's necessarily like, over for them. They can easily come second in that group and kind of start over in this competition. But they were playing a really strong Italian side, and you can just kind of tell that it took them aback. We have a super chat here from Jay Ling's fam. Jess, please smile. I feel down for the Turkey loss. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try to make you feel better. It's not over. Like, it's just not over yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they played against one of the strongest sides in the competition. I mean, we really can't say that this dark horse conversation around Italy, to me, doesn't make sense when I look at the players that they have and the depth in those positions. I mean, Verratti's not playing, and they still are able to play, Locatelli and Jorginho and Barella and all these guys, so Turkey losing the way that they did against Italy, for me, is not a big deal when they're going to play against Wales, who's not a necessarily like really good team, and Switzerland, who tend to be decent, just moderate, you know what I mean? So I think they still have a chance. I really, really do. So I wouldn't be like super upset about it just yet. Dublin Gooner says, thoughts on Selleck, Jess? Thought he looked a little bit shaky defensively. I wasn't impressed. Like, I wasn't impressed at all. When you watch the compilations, like, I only really watch them for profiling purposes only, because it's their best action. So the only thing you really can take from it is, what kind of player is this? And I thought, okay, he can probably play like that inverted right role, like right back role. It looks pretty decent. But then in the game, he just looked like he was being overrun, and that could have just been because of the state of the team. Again, they're one of the youngest teams in the tournament, if not the youngest team in the tournament. So when you take that into account, it's not really out of the realm of possibility that they would be a little bit shaken, and Selleck would be one of them because he's relatively young as well. But in terms of just general play, I think we can do better. Personally, I think we can do better. I think we need a little bit more dynamism. I just felt like he was just okay. You know what I mean? So if I had to just say like yes or no on him right now, I'd say no. Let's see. Hakuna Matata says, if England winning Euros, I will put a tip in $500. Oh, that would be awesome. So go England. I don't know. Like, I can't wait to see England play their first game. I really can't, because I think that's going to set the tone for how their tournament is going to go. George's opinion says Soyuncu was poor. Yeah, their entire defense was really poor. And again, like, super young, like, team, what is the average age of that team? I don't think they really have the leaders. And I have to say this, like, I've noticed this about Kalinoglu in the past, but I wanted to watch and see if it happened again today. He has bad body language. He gives off the type of person that you can't rely on when the team is going through a difficult period. And he, from the very moment that he realized that Italy was going to be kicking him off the park, he decided to do a lot of like remonstrating. And one time they knocked him on the ground, and he sat on the ground for a couple of moments and didn't immediately get up. And I just thought, if this is the person that they're going to rely on to give them that experience through this tournament, they're going to suffer, because I've always felt like he had bad body language when things weren't going his way. So I think that, in combination with the fact that they're so young, could really work against them. But again, I still think that they can rebound if they get a good result against Switzerland and Wales. And also, I do agree with this, that they were set up really negatively. I mean, if you're going to absorb the pressure, like, you have to have an outlet. You have to have somebody in your midfield that you can outlet to. And because Yazici and Kalinoglu weren't giving a lot, they just ended up, it was just recycling back. Like, the center backs for Italy, Chiellini and Bonucci, they're so experienced. So they knew just to step up, just smash them really quick, and then they would just recycle the ball back. So if you're going to play that way, you have to have an outlet. And I just think their midfield let them down. They didn't have enough of somebody to just get the ball and carry it. And, we talk about that as Arsenal fans all the time. When we want to play a little bit more defensive style, who is going to hold the ball for us and progress us up the pitch? And they didn't have anybody like that. Joshua Ace has been saying this, Italy are the one of the strongest in the competition. I agree. They're definitely not this dark horse that people were saying. And I do like Jorginho. I think he's a really good player. I think the Premier League doesn't really show his qualities as good as they probably are. And I think he ran the game really well today. He was very dominant, very vocal. You could tell that he was really orchestrating the midfield. And the game is won and lost in the midfield. And I think he did a really good job versus Kalinoglu and co. Sean says, this is the difference between tournament football and qualifying. Is this true? Yes Man says, I think there's a ton of value in midfielder that can be trusted to take the ball in any situation and reliably progress out of it. Technically, he's super reliable. George's opinion says, feels like Chambers is more attacking than Selleck. Sean says, don't say that, Jess. Fans wanted us to buy Selleck before the Euros, get business done early. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, until I see them in, like, my opinion on somebody will change. Like, so if I never have an opportunity to see them play in a real game, all I can go by is clips and things like that, and expert opinions and things like that. So I'm not really surprised that Arsenal fans were like, go ahead and get him, or, bring him in. Because in his compilations, he looks really good, but everybody looks good in their compilations. Then when you see him in actual game playing, you see how they, deal with pressure. their one-on-one defending, all that kind of stuff, then you start to really see who the player is. And I didn't watch a lot of League on this season, so my opinion has shifted a little bit. I do think that for me, a lot of it was based on the price as well, because I thought the defenders, the right backs that would be available to us would be somewhere around 15 million to 20 million, because that's what we would sell Bellerin for. But that being said, I think we can do better. Like, I think we can do better in terms of one-on-one defending, a little bit more dynamic. I think he's just a little bit on the meh side for me. Let's see. G says, which leagues do you watch? I watch the Bundesliga, I watch the Premier League, and then I watch the MLS as well. If I can catch some Brazilian football, I will try to watch that. I'm actually a big watcher of, like, not just from like leagues perspective, but I actually watch a lot of the CONMEBOL. I prefer that to European football, to be honest. So for me, on Sunday is when my life is really going to get interesting, because the Copa starts. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I like to watch. If I can catch like big games from League One and La Liga and stuff like that, I will. But there's so much football that you can watch now that you have to like kind of pick and choose what you want to watch. And so for the most part, in terms of leagues, it's the Bundesliga and the Premier League. Yeah. So what else did I want to talk about? So can Italy win the tournament though? So let's kind of talk about that, like, before we get into Locatelli really quick. So I'm looking at the brackets, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I think they have like, if Italy were to come first in their group, then they'd be 1A over here, and they would play 2C. And the 2C group is Netherlands, Ukraine, Austria, and a playoff in winner D. A playoff for winner for D. That's not a bad draw. I think they have an easier run to the end, if I'm not mistaken, just from like a passing glance at this. So, I think just looking at just how the draw is kind of laid out and who they would play in the next round and the depth of the squad and what I saw today, I think they have a really good chance of doing something. I think a lot of the pressure is really put on France, and personally, I think the winner will not be France. And that's just me, because usually when we predict something, it doesn't always come out that way. I remember every single time I think the best team, the team that has the most hype, I always go with them, and it's never them. So I'm mostly just going off of the fact that I usually predict the team that's the best to win, and they don't. So I actually really like Portugal, and I think they will come first in their group, and then other things will take place. I think that Group D, I think it is, or no, not Group D, it's going to be Group F, is going to be a lot different than what we think. We always think it's just going to be the teams that we predict are the best teams, but I think it's going to be different than that, if that makes sense. So I think Italy can go far in this tournament, and based on what I saw, as long as they can make sure that they score goals, which I don't necessarily feel like what we saw today was a clinical performance from Italy. I think they struggled to create clear-cut chances in the beginning, and against a team that's a little bit more, that will give them a little bit more pressure defensively. I want to see that. It's like we make these initial predictions. They played against a team that could not touch the ball, but if they play against a France, if they play against even just a little bit of better teams, Netherlands, Germany, teams like this, I'm not quite sure I saw enough of a clinical edge to give me that, like, okay, yeah, they're gonna win it. I think they can go far, but they really did struggle to create, like, clear-cut chances in that first half. So we'll see how things kind of unfold. I expect them to come first in the group, and then we'll see what kind of happens from there. But I would like to see them against a team that would give them a little bit more to do defensively, and see if they can maybe put away their chances or create clear-cut chances a little bit earlier, because it really did take an own goal and some crumbling from Turkey for them to actually get going. So that's just me. I have questions about Immobile. Is he going to be enough up top for that. Is he going to score enough goals? I thought he was just okay today. But in terms of their buildup, their possession, their pressing, the quality, the depth, I think they have enough to go far in the tournament. I'm not sure if they'll win it. You guys let me know what you think in the chat box about what I've just said. I've already said this multiple times that I don't think the team that we always think is going to win, or like the best team, is going to win it. So I don't think France is going to win it just based on that. So I would look at a team like Italy or something like that and see what happens there. G says that's interesting because Portugal in the qualifiers didn't even finish first. It was Ukraine. That's why I think Portugal will finish second or third. Well, my thing is like, I don't really take qualifiers that seriously. Like, I really don't. I think I look at the squad and I'm like, on their worst day, can they get things over the line? And I think Portugal has that about them where at the very end of the day, even if they play absolute crap, can they get that over the line in a high pressure situation? Do they have enough game winners? Do they have enough experienced players that have won before? Do they have experience in tournaments of winning before? Things like that. And I think they have all of that, plus the depth, plus the quality, plus the fact that they have to protect their crown. Like, they were the ones who won last time. So although I know that people are like, well, Portugal, they're in the group of death and all this kind of stuff, at the very end of the day, I think Portugal has enough, or even if they play crap, they can get over the line. They can win a penalty. They can score penalties. They have enough in terms of set pieces. There's just things that they have that in the worst possible scenario, in a tournament type knockout situation, I think they have it. So those are the types of things that I look at. But I like that kind of people have different ideas about it. Like, a lot of people are just picking France because they're the best team, but some people are picking like North Macedonia, people are picking Italy, people are picking like, England to win. So for me, I like that we all have different ideas, and we'll see. I really don't think it's going to be France, you guys. I really don't. George's opinion says, I'm so glad that we have games to scout players for real. Many people came off the Locatelli bandwagon. Yeah, that's true. We'll talk about him in just a second. Gunnar Glenn says, Italy will go as far as the quarterfinals. Immobile is not good enough to get them through the tournament. Yeah, I have questions about his ability to score the amount of goals that would be necessary. He was blunt today. I know that he scored a goal, but he was pretty blunt today. Dublin Gunner says, Ireland don't take qualifiers seriously either. That's why we're not at any tournament. Yeah. Olivier says, Turkey is not ready for the Italians back so far up the pitch and never fixed it. Let's see. Sean says, anytime we're favorite, we have a bad tournament, i.e. World Cup 20 or 2002, Euro 2004. That's why there's going to be an upset in the groups. There always is. And there's going to be an upset in who makes it to the final. That's just how it goes. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the only reason why I'm just not saying that France is going to win, even though I know that they have a really strong team. So let's talk about the whole Locatelli thing, because we have to bring it full circle and talk about Arsenal for just a second. Watching him, I thought, and I'm sorry if you guys can hear the gardener behind, it's annoying. But I think in terms of like profile and all that kind of stuff, what I'm kind of getting is that we're looking for an upgrade on Xhaka, not somebody different than Xhaka, not a different profile. So when you look at somebody like Locatelli, you look at somebody like Neves, they offer very similar things in terms of passing, technical ability, a little bit of defensive. They're both very well-rounded players. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they can do a lot of different types of things. I think Locatelli gives you a little bit more going forward, getting into the box and things like that. But I want to see him more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you play with Jorginho, you're the other guy, and I just imagine that if he was in our midfield, he would be the one dictating play. Like, I think Thomas would not necessarily sit, but I think he would take the Xhaka role. And Xhaka was our main, orchestrator or whatever in our midfield. And he played with Jorginho. So he had to defer a lot. And I think that's why maybe people cooled on him, because they were like, well, what is he doing? Like, what is he doing? Like, what is his role? And his role is to protect the back line with Jorginho. But Jorginho is the orchestrator, so it's a little bit different. And so I think this is why I like seeing people at club level, because I think it's a little bit different. I think that's what we base everything on in terms of scouting. But for the sakes of this, I think he was okay. I think he passed well. He kept the ball decently. He was in the better team, so I didn't see him under a lot of stress. And I would like to see him again. I want to see him again. Like, I feel like I have a really good gauge on Neves, but I don't have a really good gauge on Locatelli, because it just wasn't a good circumstance to really see if this player could fit in. But from a profile standpoint, I think Arteta is looking to, if this is true that we're actually looking at him and Neves, we're looking to improve upon Xhaka and not really bring in somebody like a Basuma. So maybe this is a midfield three. If you looked at somebody like Barella, who played off of the right-hand side, we would need somebody similar to that to complete our midfield three. And I think that's where DePaul comes in. I think the idea was, and I'm just from reading between the lines, it feels like midfield three, Thomas in the middle, Locatelli on the left, DePaul on the right, or it was Neves on the left, Thomas in the middle, Buendia on the right. That's what it feels like, because that's where the balance is in that midfield. That's what makes sense from the links for me. DePaul was an option, and Buendia was also an option. Locatelli is an option. Neves is an option as well. So, and Thomas is the constant in the midfield, and Lakanga would be his backup. That's what I'm gauging. So, in terms of Locatelli, is he good enough? Would he make sense? All that kind of stuff, I don't know. But from a profile standpoint, I'm getting the idea that it's midfield three with that type of balance, and we're trying to get a more well-rounded version of Xhaka, younger version of Xhaka. So we can control possession. It's more of a possession-based midfield versus a destroyer and get it up to your highly productive fullbacks. It's not that. It's positional play, it's patterns, it's possession, it's City-esque. I don't get the idea of Liverpool destroyer, run and gun. That's not what I'm getting from the links so far, the stronger links. So that's just kind of what I think. Whether or not we get these players, I'm not really. I'm looking at profile, because I'm not really interested in like what's the likelihood of us getting this player, because the links aren't strong enough yet. But from a profile standpoint, that's what it kind of feels like to me. Let's see. George's opinion says if we can afford DePaul, fantastic. G. Cossi says decent options. DePaul is really good though. G. Locatelli as well. Sean says, I don't think DePaul is a real link. He'll go to Spain. And here's the thing. It's like, I think we get confused, or not really confused, but we can be interested in a player and not get them. We can inquire about a player and not get them. That doesn't mean that the profile is not correct. You know what I mean? So we can call, DePaul's agent because he's the right profile, but so the link can be that we're just interested, but that doesn't mean the likelihood of the transfer is not really. I think people are like, if it's not likely to happen, it's not a real link. But it is if we're calling and we're interested in that player because of the profile, So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if we were actually like interested in bringing him in, but because maybe it's a better fit to go to Spain, maybe it's not as likely, So just looking at Buendia, who we were interested in, and the likeness in player and profile to DePaul, it makes sense to me in that respect, even though I do think, like you, Sean, that he will probably end up in Spain at Atletico. Joshua said, yep, exactly. More time the journalists overdo the stories. Clubs scout so many players. Exactly. So when people say, well, it doesn't feel like a real link, I'm like, the journalist can just know that we called the agent. It's in the agent's best interest to make it seem like their client is popping, like people are interested. So for me, it's like, okay, well, Arsenal called me, I'm the agent of DePaul. So let the journalist know that Arsenal's interested in my client. So where he really wants to go will feel pressure to get things done. Does that make sense? So, yeah. in terms of, is it a real link? If Arsenal calls the agent, it is a real link. Likelihood does not mean it's not a real link. All right. George's opinion says David Ornstein tweeted, "We are increasing our interest in Ben White." Oh, Colin says, "Hi Jess, I think Belgium is a threat." Of course they're a threat. Of course they're a threat. 100%. Belgium is still. This is their last chance. This is it with this particular group. They need to get it done. Like, they need to do something, I think. So it's really unfortunate that I think De Bruyne and Witsel will not be available for their first match. That being said, well, that's against Russia. It should be fine, right? But that being said, doesn't it feel like, even though they have some of the best players in the world, that they're just not exciting? I'm not excited about Belgium. When I watch them play, I'm bored. Like, I like the team and I like the players, but they're boring to me for some reason. And I don't get excited to watch them play. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think they should get decently far in this tournament, but I just don't know what it is, but they never seem to really get it over the line, if that makes sense. I think Koopman Miners has just went somewhere. I think he's already gone to Atalanta, to be honest. You guys know how I feel about Ben White. I don't get it. I don't get it. Sean says, "I like DePaul. He used to play for Valencia, who I also support." That's awesome. You guys, if you have other teams that you support other than Arsenal, let me know who they are. Tommy Goon says, "I like Neves and Basuma." I mean, I like Basuma. You guys know I do. And Neves is a good player. I think we overdid the whole, he's like the worst player. He's a good player. He would improve us. He just is not Basuma. Gunnar Glenn says, "Everyone knows Arsenal need a new squad, so we're being linked with everyone." G. Cossey says, "Ben White, yikes." George's opinion says, I know. Saliba looks gone. Scary times. I mean, that's not looking good. Olivier says DePaul has a Grealish look on the right side. Yes, he's profiles very similarly to Jack Grealish, and like you said, on the right-hand side, which is why I think he reminds me a lot of Buendia. They play on the same side. They play pretty similarly. They give you goals. They give you assists. And something that Arsenal do need is goals from midfield. They really, really do. And so he would be a good shout for that. I'm a little bit I don't really like the age profile, but, everybody we bring in can't be super young. I prefer them to be between the ages of 23 and 25. He's a little bit older than that, but it's not the end of the world. I guess if we have Smith Rowe, it's just not what I would prefer in that position in terms of an age profile. I just feel like the project is a little bit, it's going to be longer. And by the time we get to like probably where we feel like we would be in 2 or 3 seasons, he would be like 30 already. But I guess if you have Smith Rowe, it's fine, right? Let's see. Sean says he follows Inter Milan, PSG, Valencia, and Trinidad and Tobago. That's awesome. I wish I had a team, like more teams to follow, so I didn't have to just feel like devastated by Arsenal. But I do follow Dortmund, so there's that. Gunnar Glenn says, "Where is this 50 million coming from? For Ben White? I don't know, but it's not coming out of my pocket." Well, maybe it is. No, it's not. They have to put the money in. I don't think the amount of jerseys is going to give us that amount of money to spend on this guy. And Brighton, I don't think is going to take like 10 installments. Like, I think because they're not pressed to sell Ben White or Basuma, really. I don't think they like have to sell, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, yeah, you're not getting like 10 payments of 5 million over 10 years. Like, you know what I mean? So if we have to pay a lot up front, I don't know where that money is coming from, to be honest, Glenn. I really don't. Govan says, "I feel the same way about Belgium. I don't know what it is about them, but I don't feel they don't feel threatening. They don't. And I mean, they have Lukaku, they have all these great players, but it just, when I watch them play, it's just like, okay, like they'll probably get through the group, but when they start to meet up with the more tough teams, I'm not sure if they'll get it over the line. George's opinion says Brighton rejected 40 million for Dunk, so I doubt they're gonna go down from 50 exactly, and I don't think they're gonna take the installments, but we're interested FC. We're monitoring FC. We probably just called the agent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you probably just called the agent and was like, how much? And would he be interested in coming? Agent probably said yes, but talk to Brighton. That kind of thing happens all the time. And then the agent goes and leaks it to the journalist. Like, it's so easy to do that. Clubs, I don't think so much talk to journalists like as much as agents do. I think agents want to make it seem like their client is somebody that people want. So they're the most likely to be running their mouth. DePaul also crossed the ball from the top of the box very well. Yeah, I mean, when I watched him, I thought he was good. Um, I'm more concerned about like what kind of team are we building? What is an Arteta team look like? I think that's where my anxiety really comes from. Less so than the actual players. Like, that's why I spend most of my time like, okay, examining profiles and examining links to try to see if there's some congruency to it or some sort of connection between it. And that gives me more comfort than the actual profile, because for me, if you have the right the system that you want with the right profiles in it, and that manager can coach it, then we should be fine. So I'm trying not to get too attached to the players. I have done that with Basuma already, but I'm starting to like get better and release that, because yeah, it was bad the last couple of days, to be honest. Feeling like we're not going to get Basuma. Sean said, are you a God-fearing woman, or do you drink or smoke? I do drink, I don't smoke, and I am religious, but I don't go to church. You know what I mean? So, Hala Madrid says, my mom is an Arsenal fan, so I've seen them through the years. I'm glad I became a Madrid fan like my dad. That's not nice. That's not very nice. You guys are really lucky that you guys are going to have Luis Campos. Are you excited about having Ancelotti back? How do you feel about that? George's opinion says, I thought we wanted to build rigid possession team. That's why I thought Arteta prefers Odegaard over Buendia. I mean, it just, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I think you can have rigid possession and still have players that like to dribble and stuff like that. Like, I feel like, you have players that have come into like even that City team that were a lot more free before they were at City, and Pep broke them down, and now they play more of that rigid possession style. So I think you can still do that with the Buendias and stuff like that. It's just positional play to me is very much like domino effect. Like, this guy moves, this guy does this, and then it just kind of like follows little triggers, and then it's very strict pattern play. I think you can do that, and I think you get the certain type of profile. So when they get one-on-one with people, depending on what kind of player they are, they can beat the man, they can get the cross in and that kind of stuff. But I think most players can play a more rigid system, but you still need to have the right profiles. And I don't know where Odegaard fits in this, but I think a Buendia / DePaul fits on the right-hand side. I don't get the Odegaard thing. I don't. I mean, Odegaard can play off of the right-hand side, but he's mostly just like a 10. Like, I don't know. And I don't think are we still in for Odegaard? Like, you know what I mean? Let's see. Govan says, as a non-Arsenal fan looking in, I have to say you guys have terrible recruitment. And when you do get the right player, you always pay over the odds, e.g. Pepe. Yep, that's true. Robert says, monitoring outside solar system soon. Josh Kroenke to be sent in upper space with Elon Musk in excitement spaceship. Oh my gosh. MS says, can DePaul play as a 10 if we need him to? Tomorrow, I'll have Jim Housen and George back on the show, and we'll be talking DePaul, we'll be talking Ben White, and we'll also be talking Locatelli. They would Jim would know more about DePaul than I do because he's a huge fan. So come back tomorrow at 6 p.m. UK time, and we'll talk more in depth. But the last time that I saw him play, he played as a wide right, or like a right-sided center mid. And when I tried to look back and see what kind of lineup Udinese was playing, it looked like they played a 3-5-2 or something like that. But yet and still, even with the wing backs, he was still wide right. So I think he more plays like a right-sided center mid. That's what I'm guessing. I haven't seen him play in a 10. Let's see. What's up with all the personal questions? I mean, I'll answer them because they're not that big of a deal, but I am actually 32, so I'm definitely older than 19 to 25. George's opinion says, I think that's why Arteta rates footballing intelligence and willingness to buy into the system. Exactly. I think the footballing IQ is important and the profile is really important. So when they get into those positions, they can do what's necessary. Like Saka, he's one of those that he has the footballing intelligence and all that kind of stuff. You can plug and play him pretty much anywhere. We don't have a lot of players like that. So if you get more players like that, they can fit into a system that's more rigid, because when they get to the point where they can be creative, they'll get it done. It's just different, I think, for Arsenal fans, because we're so used to get across the halfway line and just kind of do whatever you want, because that's what Arsenal was all about, So I think it's going to be a different and an adjustment, because I really do think Arteta wants to do the Pep thing. That's what I'm thinking. Blaze says, hi, Jess. I think Arsenal don't need to buy Ben White. We have enough defenders. Arteta needs to just give Saliba a chance. Look, you guys know how I feel about this. This is giving me serious anxiety. I'm just like, what's happening? Ben White, no. 50 million? Why? I don't understand. Let's see. Yeah, you guys are all saying, why do we need another center back? I don't know. Hala Madrid says, I'm mostly excited about Campos and his recruitment. Ancelotti knows the Madrid way, so he'll help the rebuilding process. Do you think that you guys are going to keep Odegaard? And are you excited about Odegaard? Do Real Madrid fans care about Odegaard? I just want to know, because it's if we did get him, would you guys care? What do you think? And I experienced some of the best days at the club. I was able to see us win the Premier League. So I can't imagine being an Arsenal fan that's a little bit younger and thinking that we're just FA Cup merchants, because we used to win things. For real. George's opinion says, I'm cool with the system because we aren't getting embarrassed by big teams as often anymore. Can I be honest with you, though? Actually don't care about beating the big teams. I care about beating the small teams. I would happily go back to the times where we would just wipe the floor 5-0 with the smaller teams and struggle against the bigger teams. And of course, I want to be more competitive, but I think we place too much emphasis on wanting to be able to be better or beat Manchester City. We need to go back to basics and be able to beat Wolves, be able to beat Burnley, these types of teams on a regular basis. For me, when I watched Manchester United play, that's all they really did, is they had too much quality for the small teams. So they won all those games against the small teams. And then when they got up against Manchester City, they parked the bus and tried to nick a result or get a tie. That's how you get into the top four, not being more competitive against Manchester City. You know what I mean? So for me, next season, my main thing would be to get back to a place where we're solidly able to beat the teams in the bottom half, because right there, if you're able to beat the majority of them, both times, then you're good, and then you can just be more competitive against the teams in the top half. But it seems like we've really slipped away from that, and we put too much emphasis on trying to be more competitive, and we're still not beating those teams, not in the league. and that's where it really matters. We're more competitive in cup games because it's easier in cup games, but when we start talking about in the league, we still haven't scored a goal on Manchester City in the league in like 2 seasons. Like, that's pathetic. Let's see. I do agree with this, Robert, that Pepe might be a key if he's used properly. I hope that kind of what we do is not destroy him at the beginning of the season and start doing some foolishness. Just continue to play Pepe, find a way to play Pepe and Saka together because they're our best, for me, our best 2 wide forwards. And then you either play Smith Rowe or whoever you get in that position and figure out the striker scenario and just do it that way. I thought we looked so dangerous in the first half against Wolves. This is a long time ago, but the first half against Wolves when the David Luiz red card, and that was Pepe on the left and Saka on the right. And we don't do it enough. It's either Saka or Pepe, and I think it should be both of them. They can switch sides. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is what I was looking for. Hala Madrid says, I'll be honest, Madridistas, do not care much about Odegaard. He still needs more development. Zidane loves his experienced players, so honestly never got a chance. That's interesting, so he's still very much in the developmental stage, and I think if he doesn't get enough playing time in the right scenario in the next 2 years, he'll get lost because he's already 22. And I'm not saying that you should be the finished article at 22, but when you look at somebody who had almost like a perfect path, somebody like Mason Mount, like that's 22, is the same age. The difference in development is very noticeable, but his talent is up there, like, you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see, because didn't you guys give Modric another year contract? If you did that, then Odegaard really wouldn't be playing that often. So another year lost to me would be pretty much really detrimental to him, because when you get 23, 24 years old, you're still trying to develop. That's not a good look. That's not a good look. Oh, who should be captain? Tierney. Well, they said that they're going to give him a new leadership role, which makes sense because you're going to lose Xhaka. David Luiz is gone. So this leadership group needs to be reformatted or whatever. Just give him the armband and just call it a day. You know what I mean? Let's see. Olivier says, but the Premier League is a lot deeper and quality team today. Yes, I do agree. But at the same time, like, I just think we need to have too much quality for the teams at the bottom. Like, those should be games that this season we weren't able to really look at the teams in the bottom and know for sure that we were going to beat them because we knew we weren't good enough. You know what I mean? So I just feel like I know that, it's not really the same where it's just the top 4 and everybody else falls off, but we should be able to have too much for number 11 through 20 in the Premier League. We really, really should, so I do agree that it's not as the league is a lot better, but we shouldn't be giving away points to Burnley. We shouldn't be giving away points to Fulham. That's just poor, Tierney is too injury prone to be captain. I mean, that's why you have a leadership group. If I think he should be the main captain, I think he'll be there enough. I think he'll make the majority of the games. I don't think he'll be out for less than the majority of the games. And then you have other players that can step in. We had a captain that, Aubameyang, he's very available, and I'd rather have a really good captain for 20, 25 games than a crap captain for 35 games. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't really think I get what you guys are saying. Like, you want an ever constant person, but we'll always have multiple leaders. And maybe that's what we should aim for, is like, even if we do give Tierney the armband, is to make sure that there's more than one person out there that people respect. Like, because Tierney is the only player that has the leadership kind of mindset, but is also good enough to back it up. That's a big part of being captain as well. You have to have the skills and be good enough to back it up. And that's why it's kind of laughable when it's like Rob Holding, because although I feel like he does have the leadership qualities, Xhaka as well, they're not good enough to back it up. They're not good enough to back it up. I think you have to have both. So there's nobody else I can really think of in this team that has the leadership qualities plus the skills and the quality to back it up. Let's see. George's opinion said that's why I'm high on having 11 captains out there. Yeah, that would be a good thing if we could do it. Robert said, I think Party looks captainy maybe after a year. I think if you give Party more responsibility and you kind of get other people out of his way, like Xhaka was in his way this season. I thought they worked okay together, but ultimately Xhaka was running the midfield, and it made me like, what the heck? Like, you have a world-class midfielder next to a just plain guy, like, let Thomas do it. So I think Thomas can be a leader / a silent leader, lead by example, maybe a Fernandinho type guy that I don't really know what his personality is. It looks like maybe his personality came out a little bit more towards the end. If he ended up being captain, I would love it. We just have to see what happens. Let's see. Would I take Pereira? If you're talking about Pereira, Matthias Pereira, that one that plays for West Brom, I would not. I don't think he's at the level. Let's see. Dublin Gunner says, Party looks captainy is another t-shirt to go along with Runnershin is not a thing. Yeah, Party looks captainy. That was a good one. Who said that? Robert. Party looks captainy. Yeah, and Renarson is not a thing. I'm definitely going to make a t-shirt that says that. I wonder what they say behind closed doors. Like, do you guys ever wonder, like, what it was like at practice when they first saw him, like, at training? And he was letting the ball just go into the net? What the team was thinking? It was probably, like, laughs behind the scenes, like, who is this guy? All right, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. But tomorrow, 6 p.m. UK time, we'll be back with George and Jim Howson. We'll be talking transfer rumors, Locatelli, DePaul, Ben White, all those types of things. And I'm sure there'll be new news tomorrow, so we'll talk about that. And then 10 p.m. UK time, I'll be back again, probably for like a live Q&A type of thing. So I did make it to 1,500 subscribers. And I really want to thank you guys for being here, even when we're just like talking back and forth and just doing questions. It's always a good time. So I want to thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing, all of my content. I really love it. If I haven't gotten to your guys' questions, I apologize. Like, I try to get to as many as possible. If you want to drop it in the comment section after the video, do that. If you want to reach out to me on Twitter, do that as well. I'll try to get back to you, or just come back tomorrow and we'll try to get your question with George and Jim Howson. So I'll talk to you guys then. Enjoy the rest of your evening or whatever, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.